Hello, Comic-Con. Here we are at DC's booth. Are you ready for the last, I'm sad to say, our last of the weekend's DC Art Academy? If you don't know what that is, it is a chance to see a real live DC artist. That's right. Actual living people produce the incredible artwork that you love so much. And we're going to have an artist here who's going to draw for you, and you get to see some of their technique. And if you're really lucky, we're going to give out a free sketch that gets produced here. So gather around, because the artist we have is a great one. You know his work. Really, if you've been reading Harley Quinn for the last few years, you definitely know his work. But if you're reading one of our newest books from the Wonder Comics line, Young Justice, you know him as well. Please welcome John Timms to the stage, everybody.
Thank you.
So John's going to draw an image for you, and I think the only rule we gave was that we thought it should be something from Young Justice. Now, if you haven't been reading them, I can say I'm required to read everything. I'm the librarian at DC, and the Wonder comics are an amazing line. They are playful. They are fun. They really, it's what people have asked us to do, and we're doing it. And so I think the attraction for you was the writer on this. Is that right?
Absolutely.
So you want to tell them who the writer is that you're working with?
Yes, Brian Michael Bendis.
Right.
So
it's a dream when you get to work with the A writers. And Bendis coming over to DC has been a dream for us.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, beyond his Superman books, he's launched this whole line with, you know, so did you feel amazingly honored? You had a tough interview process, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was funny because I met with Brian last year on Seattle.
Yeah.
And I did my worst job interview of all time. I mean, I was so nervous.
Well, clearly it wasn't actually the worst because he chose you. So, and that was and we'll talk about this later. So, what character from Young Justice do you want to draw with us today?
I will do Connor Kent.
Connor Kent.
Yep.
Now, back in the old days, for you people who don't know, originally Superboy was Superman as a teenager, but we have now, in the post-crisis world, moved into other versions of it. And the current Superboy is, well, we have two Superboys, actually. That's a whole other kitchen game. So why did you choose Connor Kent? Is this a character that you liked reading, or just when you got to finally draw it that it was meant something?
I really like it. And the other thing is that I didn't draw before drawing Young Justice too much Superboy.
Yeah.
And now that I'm drawing him, it's really, really cool.
Okay, so it's the pleasure of the fun, and you have Connor's always going to be less experienced than Superman. Superboy, by its nature, is going to be, a younger, learning his way with these powers kind of thing. Okay, so now when you go into the image, you're getting all the proportions. You've got... and you just sketch out.
In this case, it's just setting up the figure on the space, and then I will start with the details to flesh the drawing up. So at the beginning, it's basically a skeleton of what I want to do.
And this is why everyone needs to know anatomy is one of the key skills for all artists.
Yeah, and sometimes the first lines looks like a Simpson drawing or something like that, and then we will start to pick it up.
Wait until the scribbles start to look like a human being.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because I work for a long time on animation.
Yeah.
And we work on these simple shapes that it helps a lot to the movement.
I was going to ask you how, because you are an animator as well. You've done 2D and 3D animation. How has that influenced your drawing? Has it changed, make things more simple or more repeatable?
Yeah, it's good to keep consistency on the characters.
Yeah.
But I have to add the render stuff.
Yeah.
Because animation is normally just line work.
Right.
So I need to.
Okay. And was that one of the other excitements about getting animation and back into doing comic book art? Was that there was another level that you could do the layering and the rendering?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And now with color, as color is really rich now.
Yeah.
it helps a lot. I mean,
well, we did a one here with Alex Sinclair, you know, one of the great master colorists, and it's amazing what you can do digitally that you couldn't do back in the days of Adrian Roy and other people. And plus, the paper is just so much better. So they can add gradations, colors, and highlight shadows and stuff like that. I mean, it must be also a relief as an artist to know that you're putting down details and they're going to get picked up in inks, and if they don't get picked up in inks, they're going to get picked up in colors. So that they're, you know, whatever you start drawing is going to have all of this extra, you know, depth to it at the end.
Absolutely, and now color is so rich. I mean, it's a real part of the story. I mean, it enhance everything, all the line on art.
I like that you, as the, you know, you're as a penciler, you're not going that it's not the real stuff. That you actually see it as a real part of the whole creative process.
Yeah,
because it is. You know, you feel color. And it causes you to highlight certain scenes or draw yourself. It's like the same thing. The biggest thing you're doing in any drawing is composition. Where do you place the characters? How do you pace them out so a conversation between them looks interesting and not just like any other panel?
Absolutely.
I also like that your Connor is the classic Connor as well.
Yeah.
That kid is never happy, is he? He's got a chip on his shoulder the whole time.
But in this John Justice run, he had a little nice emotional background on another planet, and it's really
well, you know, I mean, you have Brian writing these things, so his characters are never going to be two-dimensional, and there's going to be some wit and some joy in there as well.
Absolutely.
Oh, look at that.
At the beginning, I had some trouble with the hair. Yeah, trying to find out how it should looks like.
Well, you're in good company there. You know, we corrected the great Jack Kirby. He didn't do the hair for Superman, right? And we had other people draw the faces. So, you know, it's, you know, and Connor doesn't have the trick where you have the perfect little spit curl S. He's got this other sort of, you know, angry hair.
Perfect.
I see him in this, yeah. And do you always work straight from pencil? Do you ever deviate from that, or on your compositions, do you always start straight with pencils? Is there any digital?
Yeah, it depends on time constraints.
Yeah, that's the usual answer when it comes to digital. It's like, when I need the time, it can help me clean things a lot faster and straighten some of the lines I need.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Normally, as depends on the deadlines, but I try to sketch everything on the iPad Pro on Clip Studio, and then select 3 or 4 pages I like, and ink those ones by hand.
Oh, interesting.
And the other ones I keep it digital.
Okay, so then you just you're chesting out the hypothesis of what this would look, and you go, okay, now I've got my, you know, that was really interesting because that's very similar to how the color pages are. You try a sample for 2 pages, see if I've got it. Do I have the right template? In this case, your template is not a color palette, but the template is the inks. Like, what are you going to do with this? Oh, that's fascinating.
I will start inking it, trying to finish a little bit.
I think it's interesting you started with inking the eyes.
Yes, always. I don't know why always.
No, it's I've learned a lot this weekend, and it seems to be that's where the character comes out.
Yeah, right? And always with the eye that is closer to me. I start with that. I don't know why.
No, it seems to be the truth.
Yeah. It's now funny. I heard a story of Hugo Pratt, classical artist from Italy,
right?
That he started to work from the feet of the character.
There are the exceptions. You hear about a person who starts with like the pinky of the toe or the pinky of the finger, and they go backwards. There are also some people who can't draw unless some piece of drawing is already on the board, whether it's a panel or a circle. Just the blank page scares them. How do you overcome that great fear of the blank page?
It's difficult.
See, it's real. Okay,
it's real. It's real. And I try to sketch on simple paper to not feel the pressure to go for a final drawing in final board. So I prefer to do it in regular paper and then come back to because if you get the final board, it says do a final drawing.
Right. It's not for trying. I've often found that some of the greatest stuff you see on art boards, if you ever get to see them up close, are what's on the back of the board.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of people do their warm-ups, and you see like them working out characters that they've never drawn, or they'll work on a fist or a hand or something that they want to keep practicing on.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So yeah, so look at it. You can have this level of skill, and clearly you see the level of skill that we're talking about, and still the blank art board is a terrifying thing, and the way to overcome it is to find something where you feel you can just play and get that like childlike innocence of I'm just drawing, and then you go, okay, I like my drawing, now I can put it up on the big board. No.
I think what you said is exactly what you should do. Sometimes you put so much pressure on yourself that everything is stiff and no life, and you have to enjoy it. I mean, there is no other way.
Well, no one wants to see a stiff character. They want to see vibrance. They want to see life.
Exactly.
And it seems over and over again that one of the keys in producing something that spreads joy to people is to have joy yourself. And so finding the ways of the characters that are fun for you, and, it also helps you get to draw the characters you like. So
yeah. And some people likes to finish, for example, the head first completely, and then with the other parts. And in this case, I will try to do more or less everything at the in the same process.
Okay. It's always so strange is when you have a completely finished head and the rest of the body isn't there. It's like it's floating through space.
It's really
it's a little more disturbing than just taking it piece by piece.
And as you said, anatomy is really important. Anatomy and perspective are two basic tools that you have to master to draw comics. Anatomy and composition, of course.
Right. I mean, you also weren't you going to be a graphic designer? Is that the other training background you had?
Yeah, I studied graphic design at the university.
Yeah.
And work like 5 years as a graphic designer.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and then jump into animation.
Yeah.
And then into comics. I always love comics.
Yeah.
But sometimes.
Everyone's path is unique, but you're also means that you're bringing different perspectives in here. We are in a case where we have several generations of people who just wanted to be comic book artists, but the original artists, they wanted to be either fine illustrators or more likely comic strip artists. And comic books was just a means, and so it's the same thing like film and other things. It is so much richer if you bring a different discipline or perspective, and even if the perspective is just your own life experience and joy, that's what makes a drawing unique and an artist unique.
Absolutely.
I like the spikes too. He's a happy punk. All right.
And another thing that is happening now is if you go to the web, you will see so many talented people. I mean, it's like 1,000 people that is so talented. And sometimes you have to close the noise. I mean, just be yourself. There is not try to be someone or...
It's tough enough to compete with all of the great art that's ever happened in the history of the world, and we know these things. It's also tough to compete when you see how many other incredible... I mean, look, you've walked around the halls, right, in this building, and you've seen amazing art that's finished on the walls, incredible stuff in Artist Alley, the sketches that artists have been signing and drawing for you. I mean, it's a kind of a golden era of talent, and so it can be really daunting. But again, what's been the theme is, at the end of the day, don't worry about what you're not, but worry about what you are and bring that unique you-ness, because that's what we need.
Absolutely. Now, as it is just a sketch, I will fill a little bit the blacks.
Yeah.
And the blacks will overpower the thin lines, so... At the end of the blacks, I will go back to reinforce.
I don't think we could do all that. So but I get you. So you go in and you get the blacks, and then you come one more time and create more border, more line control within there.
To balance the power of the line between the...
That's awesome. Okay, so we're going to be wrapping up here in a minute, so I have to ask a trivia question, and it is going to be a trivia question, and the question is, we're going to do a Superboy one first, just in case. No, you know what, we'll do a Young Justice one, right. All right, so the question is, if you watch the animated show Young Justice, who did Connor Kent date? That's right. His hand was so much faster. You were right like a split second. So, the disappointment's killing me. It's just right there. Yeah, yeah. But you know, he has a nice case, so that like this artwork is going to make it out of the hall and be safe. Plus, he's got the S. So I know you're not. Yeah, yeah. I keep apologizing. I don't need to do it, but this is pretty amazing. So we have a winner.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to stop. You can keep going there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No. Okay, he didn't shave that week. You saw that, right? It's
yeah.
He's got a lot on his mind. Cloning is rough on you.
Just a little bit of shading.
Yeah, I know that I was talking about this with Lucio Perillo, which was they tell you don't use your fingers. You're like, but that makes the best effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the one you've been doing since you were a kid.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like the first time you found out you could smear things, and like, look at all this cool shade I got here.
It's the best tool you have.
Yeah. So sometimes the little tricks you find as a kid are still, when you're a pro, are the ones you use. Look at that. Okay, so again, if you came in here late, the book is Young Justice. Not only do you have the really talented John Timms on it, but it's written by Brian Michael Bendis. So that's the last question I'll ask. What does it mean when you start getting scripts from people that you kind of idolize and they start coming in? What does that do to you?
It's complicated. I mean, but I try to not think too much about that. Just
do those 2 pages, see if they work, and then go back to the rest of the book.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you're pinching yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that. Yeah. Okay, I think it's more or less.
If you're happy with it, I think we were all happy about even 10 minutes ago. So that's fantastic. Okay, so everybody, let's give it up for Mr. John Timms here. You can find his work in the collected editions of Harley Quinn, but you can also find him right now in your newsstands at Young Justice. And I want to recommend one more thing. Don't just buy Young Justice, buy the rest of the Wonder Comics line, because Brian Michael Bendis has curated a bunch of great titles, brought in a lot of his favorite artists, and they're making, which are seminally all ages comics that are available to everybody with a bunch of neglected characters in the DC universe. So please support it so we can make more comics like this. Well, let's give it up one more time for John Timms.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's your winner.
And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.